Hello, and welcome to the WERC Environmental Design Contest webinar. We're looking forward to the 35th contest to be held in Las Cruces, New Mexico. So we welcome you. This is an informational webinar to let you know how you can get involved in the contest. Our next contest is April 6th through 9th in 2025 in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Now, most of you don't live in Las Cruces, so we've invited faculty members and judges who come from across the country to tell you how they participate. About the contest, it's a hands-on real-world design challenge designed by industry and government agencies. Your students will be mentored by professional engineers. They can win cash prizes of up to $4,500 per task, and each team enters one task at the contest. Plus, you get accolades for your institution. At the contest, students pose as engineers, answering an RFP. We give them real-world problems requiring innovative solutions. They build working bench scale demonstrations of their designs, and they're mentored by practicing engineers. And all of the photos here are taken from the design contest. This year, our tasks that were designed by industry and government are protecting post-wildfire water supplies, smart grids with hydrogen integration, using fungi to remediate mining waters. The NASA task is for life support systems in dust mitigation and lunar habitats. And our produced water project is recovering valuable constituents from the produced water. Also, teams have a chance to enter an open task. If there's a project that you're particularly interested in having your students explore that has an environmental component, or if there's something your students are very interested in, we invite you to have them join the contest as well. There is a registration fee. Early bird registration is $870 per team for a team of 5 students and 1 advisor, and that's through December 31st. A little bit later, we'll be talking about the team doesn't have to have 5 students. It can have 2 students, or it could have 14. We've seen all of those at the contest. There is an extra fee per person, and all these fees help cover the cost of food and t-shirts. Our sponsors cover the rest of the costs. First of all, why should your school participate? We have judges some of whom participated when they were students. We have faculty, some of whom also participated in work when they were students. And they come from long distances, including the judges. And so we'd like you to hear straight from them why they bring their teams and how they make it happen. The faculty will tell you how they organize teams, give you suggestions on how many people per team, and they all have different models that work for them, how they fund participation, and how they mentor their teams and help them become winners. We'll first hear from our judges and task developers, Caleb Woodall from DOE Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, Malynda Cappelle, who's a desalination expert and our lead judge, also previously competed in work when she was a student, Michael Jahne at the EPA Office of Research and Development, who also was a previous work competitor. We'll have faculty from across the country, Audra Morse from Michigan Tech, Kristen Wyckoff from Washington University in St. Louis, and Darin Ridgway of Ohio University. We will start with Caleb.
Hey everyone, thanks Ginger. Yeah, my name's Caleb Woodall, and as she said, I'm with the U.S. Department of Energy and the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management. This past year, we were able to sponsor a topic on removing CO2 directly from the atmosphere, carbon dioxide removal. We really enjoyed getting to be involved with the competition because we were able to set up a pretty involved task, being able to develop a modular solutions that could remove CO2 from the atmosphere at least 100 tons per year, and also work with communities. And so we had 4 teams get involved with this task, and it was really interesting to see the kind of range of students. One team was primarily first-year students. Some other teams, you could tell it was part of their senior design project, and they kind of culminated all of the things they had learned over the past 3-4 years into this project. You got to see a lot of really good creativity and different types of solutions, incorporating the technology of finding ways to bind with CO2 from the atmosphere, but also in creative ways to work with communities as well. Myself and 4 other colleagues from the Department of Energy and our National Energy Technology Laboratory really liked was the fact that this competition had a hands-on component. We have other competitions that we do that are a little bit more like like business model based or simulation based, and really appreciated that this gave the students the opportunity to develop a bench scale solution. Um, something else as an employer and a sponsor here is that we really enjoyed getting to interact with the students throughout the week, starting with hearing their pitch and their 5-10 minute presentation, and getting to hear them explain their concepts, also getting to read the reports, and then throughout the week, seeing them dive more into the concepts with their bench scale. But also, I think I can speak for myself and many other employers. It was really valuable experience to be able to talk to the students and tell them about different career pathways that are possible in these technology areas of the tasks, and giving them advice on some of these engineering concepts that especially the first year students are just getting started with. So yeah, it was a really, really great experience, and glad that we got to be a part of it this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Caleb. And I would like to remind those who are joining us on the webinar that there's a Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. We welcome you to click it and answer any questions that come to mind. And I think Caleb made a very important point, and that is that sometimes teams use this as a senior capstone, but sometimes they bring their students much earlier. And we'll hear about that a little bit later as we move on. And now we'll hear from Malynda Cappelle.
Hi, everyone. My name's Malynda Cappelle, and in almost 20 or more than 20 years ago, I actually competed in the WERC design competition back when it was in a big white tent at New Mexico State. Back then, it was a much different experience, but I think in a lot of ways, what makes WERC unique is that you do build something, and that makes you learn a lot of interesting tools. Like you learn how to troubleshoot something. You learn that things go wrong, and you learn that you have to mitigate that problem and work around it and figure out a new solution. As a judge, what I found most interesting about this is seeing how the students troubleshoot and problem solve during the competition, because you'll think everything is working here at my school, and then you're going to drive it hundreds of miles or thousands of miles to New Mexico, and you'll set it up, and lo and behold, it doesn't work. And you have to figure it out. And you know what? That is real life, and it is just a really great experience. I look forward to seeing all of the students, all of the judges, and all of the professors and everybody that are here. So all I can say is, give it time and be open to problem solving, and you'll have a great time. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Malynda, we had a question that I think that you could answer. It says that I did mention that teams are mentored by practicing engineers. Does WERC connect the teams with an engineer?
That's a great question. So I can say yes in a variety of ways. So as part of this work design project, you're supposed to get your project reviewed by somebody, and that's a great opportunity for you as a team to get somebody to help you through something, or maybe you've made an assumption that's wrong. That's one way it can end up working out. Another way is while you're at the design competition, you have a lot of opportunity to meet people from DOE, from industry, from other parts of government, and that's another way. And finally, maybe you're thinking about going to grad school, and so you might find a school you've never heard of before, and that's another way you can find a practicing engineer. Maybe they're a professor, maybe they're somebody that's already in industry. So just keep your mind open and see what you find.
Great, thank you. And does anyone else who's on our panel want to address that question? Audra, please.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a faculty advisor to teams that participate in this, and we use this as an opportunity to gauge alumni that I might meet just through my usual day job. But I find that the alumni are generally very happy to help and give the students feedback, and they give them some great feedback. It allows the students to start practicing those skills of how to, present their designs to, what will eventually become their peers, but how to present that and kind of get over that fear of, oh my gosh, I'm just a student. What do I know? How do I talk to someone who's in industry? And that has been really beneficial. And then I just find in my role as department chair that this helps me find great ways to connect with alumni who are always wanting something to do, but we can't invite them all to our classes to give seminars because we would never faculty would never be able to teach. But this has been a great substitute for high quality engagement.
Wonderful, thank you. And now let's hear from Michael Jahne from the EPA Office of Research and Development.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Michael Jahne. I'm currently with the EPA Office of Research and Development. But I'll back up first to when I was a student. I was also a student participant in this contest, and just share a couple of reflections on that experience. First of all, I'm originally from upstate New York, and so I had never traveled to the Southwest before, and so and neither had any other students who I went with, and so for us it was an eye-opening opportunity to see another part of the country, see just experientially as a person, but also to see the water quality challenges that they deal with out there. And so that was that's the first thing that I recall from my time as a student. The second thing I recall is how much work I put into our project. We really it's a really rigorous project. These are real world design contests. These are not student. These are not designed to be dummy projects that are like a class project. These are real world problems that generally do not have a solution that is established, and so they're by definition hard. And I think that's a really, for me, that was a really fulfilling experience where we were given a real world problem, and we were asked to solve it, and we spent a lot of time doing it, and then going to the contest and showing it off, and seeing the other teams, what they come up with, talking to the students, and then ultimately in our case we did end up winning an award, and so that was really fulfilling as well to to be recognized for all that hard effort we put in. Another benefit that I'll point out from my own experience is giving it gives you something to talk about in a job interview. When you get to a job interview, one of the questions they're going to ask is, tell me a project that you worked on, tell me the problems you encountered and how you dealt with them. That's like a boilerplate interview question. And they don't want to hear about your class projects. They want to hear about real world stuff. And this gives you that opportunity to have a dialogue about a real world challenge that you addressed. And so it gives you stuff that you can put in your resume, stuff that you can talk about in interviews. And for students coming fresh out of college, that might be the only thing that they have. And so, extremely beneficial on that front. And so, I really, I feel like I got a lot out of the contest as a student, and I feel like my peers did as well. And so, when, this circled back and I was, reintroduced to the contest through my current position, I was very excited to get involved. And so EPA has been sponsoring a task of the contest for the last few years. And all of our tasks are tied to pressing environmental challenges for which, again, we don't have a solution. And so these are things that we are actively looking at in our own internal research, or that we're funding external grants of dollars to look at these questions. And we're asking the students to address these same topics. And so it's not, again, this is real world stuff. And I think that's really one of the unique things about the WERC contest. And then, I'll echo some of the previous comments too about, going to the contest and interacting with the students. Now, on this side, it's really excellent to see their enthusiasm and to see, that they're everything that they've learned and everything they've come up with. And, often they are very excited about what they've done, because, and they should be, because these are really challenging problems and they come up with really great solutions to them. And we get to see them present their solutions in a variety of different formats. And so they get experience, interacting in a formal presentation setting, but also doing, more informal poster sessions, showing us their bench scale demonstration. And so lots of opportunities to interact. And now, of course, the students are interested in EPA. They a lot of the students are environmental engineering students, just given the nature of the contest, although certainly other disciplines participate as well. And they see EPA and they get excited about that too. And so having the opportunity to talk to them about the career paths that are open to them if they want to go into, a government job, be it in a regulatory or a research setting, related to environmental problems. And so this can be, an opportunity to kind of get their foot in the door that way too. And I know a number of the other employers, also are networking with the students too. And so there's a really beneficial element, a tangible opportunity for them to benefit their careers by coming to the contest. And so, really, I can't say enough good things about it, and, happy to entertain any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. Now we'll hear from faculty who bring students. Audra Morse from Michigan Tech is first on our list, and
I'm letting Ginger do all the hard work. That kind of tells you something about the program and how hard Ginger works. So this slide is actually not my most recent team, or teams, I should say. This is the start of the journey. And here at Michigan Tech, we have a unique program we call Enterprise, and it allows students to obtain course credit, but they're enrolled, and the intent is that they're working on either design contests or real world problems sponsored by industry partners. And so this is the first team that I had. They asked if they could participate in the WERC contest, and they were second year environmental engineering students. And other than participating in this competition back in like the 90s, it had been a long time, so a lot had changed. Because they were only second year students, worked to guide them to a project that I think they could accomplish. There were some others that sure were very applicable to who they were as environmental engineering students and who they would become by the time they maybe graduated, but they just didn't have that skill set yet. But they picked a really great project that connected to something relevant to our area and their passion and creativity. But what was great about them and this group is that it allowed them to grow some of those other skills. So yes, they grew technical skills that they had not and were not gaining in classes, but they worked on what I like to call power skills, that teamwork, communication, conflict, a lot of creative and critical thinking they employed. And then for them, they had never participated in an open-ended design type project before, especially to this magnitude and scale. Maybe a semester, maybe something that took a month in a semester class, but not something that they worked on the entire year. So it was great because over the course of the year, they learned how to time manage bigger projects. They started to think like a true engineer. And so Francine, there with the red hair, she just graduated, and it turns out, if we fast forward in time to the current day, she graduated in May. She participated in the WERC competition then for the next 3 years. She had such a great time and learned so much that she was recruiting students into the enterprise, but then specifically we asked her, we did a spotlight on the team at the end of the year to kind of showcase, the student successes. And she said it was the WERC competition that helped her realize she could be an engineer. And we spend so much time as educators trying to find and develop programs and implement ways to enhance retention. And here was a program already in existence. We just had to make sure the students knew about it and were willing to participate, but it helped retain her in the discipline and then as an engineer. So I think it's really worthwhile. Some other things you may be asking. So if you're not familiar where Michigan Tech is, we're way up in the UP of Michigan. I'm closer to Canada than I might be a lot of other places in the country. So for us to travel to New Mexico, it's quite a challenge. And so we fly. As the team has grown, we went from 3 to 6 to 12. I don't know that we're going to double again this year, but I do think we'll have a healthy contingent of students. So we fly. So that means the students have to do some fundraising. Because they are in this enterprise program, they pay course fees. And so we can direct the course fees to that. But I encourage the students to do some of their own fundraising. And then as a department, we get to benefit from, say, other efforts to fundraise for student groups to participate in design competitions. And so you might be familiar with things like steel bridge and concrete canoes. So I've been able to make a successful case that they should get support for that too. Because the team has been successful, we've turned around their reward money and supported their travel, and that helps offset also the cost of getting them there. Students from basically their first year to their senior year, and they're graduating that May, participate in this competition, and regardless of level, they've all learned something that benefited them and helped them, as I mentioned with Francine, either through the curriculum, obtain an internship, make professional connections because I made them, contact additional engineers out, to get input on their project. But all of these things have really benefited the students, and I'm really proud to be able to be their advisor with this competition.
Thank you so much, Audra. Really appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure to have your teams and to see these same students coming back and developing each year. And that's a model that I'd like to see a lot more. We're not just a capstone project source, but also to develop students starting when they're sophomores. Thank you. So let's hear from Kristen Wyckoff now.
So I'm a different perspective. I'm coming from Washington University in St. Louis, which is a private school. And I'm also in the Energy, Environmental, and Chemical Engineering department, which makes us a little bit different from traditional civil departments. We don't have the opportunity to participate in things like steel bridge or concrete canoe because it's just not our area. So finding this contest for us was really big, especially for the environmental students. We do use this as a capstone opportunity. I haven't talked with anybody about expanding it beyond, but there are talks in the department about adding more design opportunities for students. So I don't know that I would be surprised if it expanded beyond what we're doing right now, but for now, we're doing capstone. We're using this as a capstone platform, and a part of why we really like this is because we are able to give our students new projects every year. Like last year getting the carbon project, and this year one of the ones we're really interested in is the micro remediation project. And so just giving them different areas to try to work in. Also giving them a chance to build working prototypes. Our chemical engineering capstone students don't have to build anything, they're just doing models. So this gives us a really fun chance to show our department, our other faculty, some of the undergrad students that aren't to senior year yet, that we're actually building something physical and tangible that actually works. A big part of the process that the students really like is getting to interact with the professionals and judges that are at the conference. By the time we get there, they are pretty much done with us as their instructors, honestly, and they're ready to get feedback from other people. And getting it not only at the competition, but in the middle of the semester on their written reports and their safety plans is also really helpful. And another reason we really like this is because it allows the students to incorporate and also kind of forces them to do design. And it also makes them think about the economics of their design, ethics, teamwork, and also the lab work that they're going to be doing. And a big one for us is communication. Getting them to actually practice professional and technical communication is really important. The way that we fund is a little bit different. Because we are a private school, our department and our college actually funds the entire trip for us. We don't have to make the students pay anything out of pocket. And I don't think that we have any extra course fees that the students have to pay. We also have a lab donation that we received recently in the past few years that allows the students to have funds to pay for equipment and materials that they might need for these new projects. So each team, at least right now, because we only have 2 teams, gets up to $2,500 per year to buy things that they might need. So if there's equipment that we can't find in the department, or buying different chemicals because we don't have a big bio background in the department to make sure we can have media or something, really is what allows our students to pay for this stuff. And then we have the winnings right now go into just a separate account for any needs or wants that we might have. We haven't been asked to use it to pay for travel yet. This past semester, we did split some of the winnings with our students, at partly at their request and partly at the amount of effort that they had put in. So we'll see if we continue doing that moving forward. It was just the first time trying it. And another part of why our department's so excited to send our students to this is because it allows us to do some external advertising. It also allows our students a chance to do some actual publications. So this past year we had our first chance at having student publications at the undergraduate level, which I have down here in the bottom corner. But I also have, this is just my own personal post, getting almost 2,000 impressions just from posting about a win for both of my two teams. And almost every single student posted something, and we had it shared by other LinkedIn and on X or Twitter, whichever your preference is. So we've had this shared in other places, and we've also done some internal writing from our communication department for each time that our students have gone, talking about awards that they've won and their experience at the actual competition. So we're doing a lot of pushing. We want people to see this because we're a relatively new environmental engineering department. And last 2 years ago, I guess, we brought 5 people. This past year, we brought 11. And I think this coming year, we're bringing another 11. So another 2 teams, because we split into kind of bigger teams to allow them to have more time. And they work on this starting in the fall semester, just coming up with like literature reviews and coming up with ideas, making sure that they're on track and that we can bring the teams. And then in the spring semester, they work on a lot more of the technical documentation and a lot of the lab work, making sure that they can actually make their ideas from the previous semester work.
Wonderful, thank you. We had a couple of questions for you. They're somewhat related.
Okay.
The first question is, I'm curious how you prototype a chemical engineering project. The second is, do you still do modeling for chemical engineering discipline, or will students have prototypes?
Well, I mostly handle the environmental side, and so they don't really prototype on the chemical engineering side. They're mostly doing work in Aspen, so we teach that to them in the pre-capstone course, and then they use it in the spring when they get to their chemical engineering capstone course and actually develop it. But we do have the unique perspective of having this chemical influence on our environmental students, and they are able to bring in more chemically oriented design to this competition. And I've seen it as a big help. Our students are big fans of chemical solutions to environmental problems.
Excellent. And Darin, do you have any thoughts on that? You're from the chemical engineering department at Ohio University. Prototypes, modeling, how do you work it all?
Well, since ChemCAD, we use ChemCAD, but it's basically, yes, process modeling. Sometimes, because they know how to do it, they'll use that as a resource if it applies to one of these projects. They'll use ChemCAD a little bit to help them just because they know it as a resource, but I mean, it's not normally part of these projects.
So can we address the first question? How do you prototype a chemical engineering project? I assume the question was, how do you build a bench scale demonstration of these projects that are clearly chemical engineering related? How do students go about it?
You know, you do the best you can within the time and place that you have. You guys obviously don't have a laboratory, so sometimes there's steps that you cannot do. You have to do a little bit of the cooking show thing, you know, say this is the first part of it, and then you would do this, and then you'd have this, and I mean, you show as much of it as you can is what I tell them. Whatever is reasonable and safe.
Last time, right?
What?
Your team brought that big tank last time?
Yeah, that was,
Can you describe that?
Well, we made a big flash tank that we tried to, we're flashing off some of the produced water. So yeah, we do the best we can. It's the funnest part of the project to me, is building the bench scales. Just figuring out how you're going to do it.
Okay, thank you. Audra, you were nodding a lot. Do you have anything to add to that?
I was, because it's not chemical, but it was environmental. And so, and it just kind of, I think, gives you some maybe ways to visualize how this is approached. And so, for example, my students last year, they designed a green infrastructure system to handle stormwater in an area near where we live. And so our students use physical models that are used by industry for modeling stormwater to model stormwater. But then we're like, well, what do we take for the bench scale? And so what they chose to do was a physical model of the town to show where they would put their bioretention cells and swales for the judges to see. So I think that there's how you think about prototyping can vary. And I didn't think of what my students initially thought of, but it worked fairly well in terms of explaining the challenges that we have here because of the topography and where the town was relative to the water source. And I think it was a bit more engaging than just a picture. So it fit in the prototype.
Right. And I like to add that the task problem statements are on our website, and they describe what we expect for the bench scale demonstration. For the prototype that Audra was just mentioning, we had specified in there that the teams may need to build a different kind of bench scale for that specific problem. And let's see, we have, can students participate in the execution of a project without registering for the April event? Well, you could go online and look at our tasks and have your students work on those. They wouldn't have the benefit of coming to the contest, of working with our practicing engineers. Each team works with a group of 5 to 6 engineers who they stay with the same group throughout the whole competition. So they're continually getting feedback, having that chance to discuss their projects with others. Does anyone else have other reasons why coming is beneficial?
Coming is like the pinnacle. It's where the students get to show off what they've done and present it, and they kind of get to reap the rewards regardless of whether or not they win, because they get real feedback and real validation that they've done something and it was successful in some way.
Thank you.
I'm going to add to that Kristen's comment, because I don't think we often don't have the ability to replicate what happens there. And it is a group of engineers who they don't know, have no affinity, to the school or their program, but is giving them feedback and really just is there to fully support them. One thing for us is that I have students that generally come from the Midwest, especially Michigan. And so one of the things about Michigan is it's pretty much surrounded by water, right? And so my students don't know a world that is not water abundant. And depending on the form of precipitation, right? But it's water abundant. And so then to think about the design in not only their design work in a different perspective, but to see it is really meaningful. And so I think there is a culture piece that they get because they're there. The student networking too, I think the students really enjoy meeting students from other schools. And that can't be probably underscored enough either. Because again, they're so engrossed in their school, or maybe a couple schools because their friends go to them. But to see what's happening at other programs around the country is really, really valuable too.
Thank you. And I appreciate you pointing that out, because we have a limited number of tasks. And one of those reasons is that multiple teams enter a task, and then the students get to go see what their peers did from other institutions. That's another learning experience for them. Well, we have one question. What is the approximate timing for preliminary conversation, planning, and execution? We generally figure that this is a 2-semester project, that students start researching in the fall and start building their bench scale prototypes in the spring. We have posted on our website a calendar to guide you in the pacing of where teams should be, just as a benchmark. We don't check up on you, but We also have one for one semester students. I know the first year, Audra mentioned that her teams really didn't get started until January. And so teams can do this as a one semester project, and we've seen teams be successful doing that. Okay, so I'd like to give the stage to Darin Ridgway from Ohio University.
Just give a slightly different model and background. We've been doing this for 20 plus years. I really do it because I'm convinced that it makes my students better engineers. Almost all my students are chemical engineers. That's the department I'm in. I basically give them the first chance. Sometimes we'll have an outside person because that person has approached me and asked to do it, and we have some room for them. We've done as many as 4 teams, but really I only run 1 to 2 teams now. So I'm probably running anywhere from 6 to 11 students. It's voluntary. As I had said previously, we do not do this as our senior capstone, and that's just because we have some specific requirements within the department of what our capstone project needs to be, and we can't really guarantee that these projects will have those features. And so it is voluntary. I do give them some credit that they can use toward graduation under the technical elective category. I run it as by permission, but I'm not cherry picking, I say. Really my only requirement is they have the time to do it and so I don't have GPA requirements or anything. Sometimes I have weaker students do it. I have strong students do it, but I'm convinced it makes all of them better than they would have been if they hadn't have done it. So I said my current cost is about $1,300. Now that's everything for me. Travel, registration, bench scale, and so it comes out to about 12 or 1,300 per student. Over the last few years, my students don't pay anything. I'm not allowed to have course fees at my university, and I don't. I can't have them donate money to the project because you can't call something a donation and require it both. That's actually illegal, I've been told. And so we just find the money somewhere. Combination, the college is very good about giving us money. We have good support for student projects from my college. Department has some funds. A lot of those funds came from my past work alumni who donate money to the department and like it to go to this activity. We put the prize money back into the pot. We occasionally have some industrial sponsors. And it always seems to work out. I have a different trip model, and this goes back to the idea that my students, most of them have never been out west. So the trip is a huge selling point itself. We usually make it a week, so we stay a couple extra days. I take them to the Grand Canyon, which is a long drive, but we spend a lot of time just kind of seeing the Southwest. It doesn't really cost us that much extra money, but it does cost us a little bit extra. But this trip is a huge selling point for the students. I always tell new people, I said, don't get discouraged. If the first couple years, you'll learn how to do this contest. You'll get better at it. Like I said, the first year we went, we got the lowest score in every category for every team. So I use my work alumni network now to help the teams. I don't mean the auditors, which is a official step in the process, but I put them as other people have mentioned, I put them in contact with people that can really help them, working engineers that do full-scale design work and people that are much more expert in environmental and regulatory issues than I am. So, and this helps them out a lot. And I would just highlight, like I said, I think this makes them better engineers. It is often frequently mentioned. It's a major discussion topic in their job interview they had. I've also probably had a half dozen students over the years get a job directly from a contact they met at the work competition. I had one this past year that she got a job from someone she met at the work competition. So it's not necessarily indirect, it can be direct. So that's all I have, but I'm willing to answer any questions that anybody might have here or in the future.
Thank you so much, Darin. I really appreciate it. I like to point out, Darin said their budget was $1,300 per student, and that includes his trip to the Grand Canyon, which I think is a fabulous, fun opportunity for your students. And again, to see the Southwest. What's in the background of my Zoom image is the Oregon Mountains, which are in Las Cruces, with some of the very few vegetation that they could find for this picture, because we are in the desert Southwest. I'd like to just share a few other things that I promised you. So our work history. WERC was founded in 1991 by the DOE, NMSU, and UNM, that's New Mexico State University and University of New Mexico, because they found that students were graduating without understanding issues of waste management. And so this was developed. Our contest has been going strong for 35 years as teams work with engineers, as engineers identify whatever the new challenges are. Now we go way beyond waste management. A lot of it is waste management, cleaning up mining issues, but also recovering valuable materials so that we can have a more sustainable world. And so work is evolving. But it was originally WERC, stood for Waste Management Education Research Consortium. Just a few more details that I didn't cover earlier about the registration. I did mention the early bird registration is $880 per team, and the team covers 5 students plus 1 faculty advisor. Extra people on the team, whether they're more advisors who attend the contest or other additional students, pay an extra fee, and it helps us partially cover the cost of food and your t-shirts. Our budget is about $200,000, and so we have sponsors who believe in this program who help us make up the rest of the money. As you can see, registration fees go up over time. We try to make the early bird a nice long time so you can find out how your teams are doing before you register them. I hope to see you in 2025. There's our contact information. I'd like to let you know that on our website, we have all of the tasks written out. You can go online, look at all of the tasks that are available. And at the end of those task problem statements, we ask you to contact us, email us, and let us know which tasks you might be interested in. And then we can connect you with the right resources for your task. At times we will ship you chemicals or other things that might be hard for your team to obtain yourself. So do we have any closing thoughts from those of you panelists who have participated? Michael, would you tell us, you said you were a student, but I don't think you mentioned what university you were from.
Yeah, sorry, I'm from Clarkson University, which is a small engineering school in northern New York. And so pretty much the opposite climate that you could have compared to Las Cruces. And so, it was a great opportunity to go down there. And I think, speaking from the student perspective, yeah, that is definitely one of the highlights, is the trip. But I think, the it's also a great opportunity for the technical standpoint too, and to be able to put all the work that you've done, to the test, everything you've learned in your schooling, for me, it was a capstone project, and, learning those soft skills that Audra mentioned, that actually, that's a key part that our engineering curriculum tends to be very, very technical and very strict, and you don't have a lot of time for stuff like that. And so, this gives you an opportunity to kind of, do that while also developing a really technical solution. So very satisfying.
I appreciate that insight. And you reminded me that we have an exit survey, and in the survey, at least 93% of students said that participation in the contest gave them a sense of belonging in engineering. And Audra mentioned how important that is for students to feel like they belong and for retention. Also, 95% said they improved their communication skills. They improve their confidence as engineers, their ability to solve environmental issues. And the environment is for everyone. It's not just for environmental engineering majors. And that's something that we've worked hard to accommodate at the design contest, to have tasks that would interest each discipline of engineering. Just to remind you what those tasks are. And
well, Ginger, I was just going to add, this last year I had physics and math and computer science majors in addition to civil and environmental. So yes, it can be open to really any student that has a passion for solving these kind of problems.
Excellent, thank you. Kristen, do you have any sum up ideas, thoughts?
You should bring your students.
Thank you.
It's worth it. I enjoy coming as a faculty member, but my students enjoy it so much, and they learn a lot. They honestly, seeing their faces light up when they get to talk with the judges, show off the work that they've done, and see it work, it's really worth it.
Oh, and I can tell you from my point of view, going to each booth and talking to the students and seeing their excitement and their confidence in what they have worked on. So they develop this engineering solution and then they get to present it. But what students have said is that they feel like they're treated more as colleagues by the judges rather than they're being judged. And I think that's a very valuable thing. Just to let you know, some of the task developers and judges that come to the contest. So we have judges who travel on their company's expense from 10 different states to come here, and who Zoom in with us to develop these tasks. And we really appreciate all of their work and their sponsorships as well. So thank you all for joining us. Please let me know if I can answer any questions. My email address is there, phone number is there, and I look forward to seeing you at the design contest. Thank you all so much.